Welcome back. Episode 2, Mate Talk. Now, what is Mate Talk? It's about friends coming together and sharing a drink. In Argentina, we drink mate. The word also mate means friends here in Australia, so this is a chance for friends to come together, share some things. And the real motivation behind this was that I was getting a lot of questions, both on YouTube and Instagram, about different things to test and try. And I was getting bogged down, basically. Just not enough time to create all the content and smell all the perfumes that are out there. So I'm developing Mate Talk as a way to quickly address these things on a weekly basis, answer your questions that you may have, and also test new perfumes. Now, first, let me explain what mate is. One thing that was said to me last week is it was a bit disconcerting not being able to, the camera was out of focus. It actually annoyed me very much too. And so what I'm doing is a second camera, look at that, forget about it, that will show close up on stuff. Tell me if this works, all right? Because what I want is one single roll, no cutting, so hopefully I don't make a mistake is what I'm saying. And also it's, it's friends talking, this mate here, so mate is a drink that we drink or have in Argentina. It's like a tea. It looks kind of weird, I know, it looks like a bong to a degree, but it's not, it's just a herbal tea. I was told by a man called Alfredo, sorry Alfredo, I apologize. Alfredo, and he recommended me this brand here. So if you're interested in drinking mate, this is also, it's actually a really smooth mate flavor. I normally drink one called Nobleza Gaucha. It's a little bit harder and a bit more robust in taste. I normally don't put sugar, but you can put sugar in. So if you wanna, go grab a coffee, grab a tea, and join me on this Mate Talk, which will go for 10 minutes. I'm gonna be punching through it. Now, I wanted to address one thing that I said last. So last week, there were 2 fragrances that were sent to me by an awesome man called Lee. Zaharoff Down Under is the handle for his Instagram, and he's a big fan of, obviously, Zaharoff, but he's also a big fan of Boadicea the Victorious, the fragrances from the UK. And he sent me 2 samples. One was called Monarch, the other one was called The King. When I sprayed Monarch, I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Yeah, I fell instantly in love. And then when I sprayed The King, I'm like, oh, this one I don't think is for me. You probably saw it in my expressions. And it was the cardamom and in the opening that sort of threw me off a little bit. It was a bit too spicy. It was quite unusual. However, when I was editing and bringing this video, or the last week's video, to life, I am smelling something. I'm thinking, which one of these 2 is actually creating this wonderful aura? And it's actually The King. So I just want to, on the dry down is where the pure magic happens on a fragrance. Obviously, that's where the fragrance will live for the rest of the duration of the of being on your body. The King is where it's at. Gentlemen or ladies, go out and test this one here. It's really phenomenal. It's really phenomenal. Actually, and this is the purpose of what Mate Talks about. It gives me a chance to share quickly, because normally I have to do a long, if I'm gonna do a review on The King, I have to then test it for a week and then go out and buy it and then try to bring some sort of, what's my emotions surrounding that. So this is a great way to give you my instant feedback. Now, another thing that was raised by Adrian Lunn, he asked me to, what was my feelings with Gucci Intense Oud compared to Black Afgano by Nasumato. Adrian, I haven't forgotten, I just haven't had a chance to go into the city. I will go in the city this week and I will take my Black Afgano. I am going to do a test. I'll report back next week, I promise. 2 other questions that were raised. One is, what's an awesome fragrance that is a crowd pleaser? And that was asked by Jay. And another gentleman by the name, he's actually got a B and then EZ. So Bees is possibly the name or the handle. I'll put it here so you can see who that is. And he asked me, what's a really great summer fragrance? So I'm gonna hit 2 birds with 1 stone on that, and let me show you. And then the last one will be a question that was asked by Julio, who said, why don't you test out a fragrance called Iris Malikan, I think. And it's all, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna create a complete story. I've been wanting to do something on this house, and the house is Maison Crivelli. It flies under the radar. Not a lot of people are talking about it. If you Google Maison Crivelli, you're not going to get a lot of hits. Actually, recently I was watching another reviewer And in the comments, someone wrote, has anyone heard of Maison Crevalli? And it makes me sad. It's honestly because this house, and I have 3 of their fragrances. I'm going to show you in a second, one by one. This house is honestly, people, spectacular, absolutely spectacular. So this is the first one that I want to show off, and that's Absence Boreal. That's one that my wife absolutely adores. Completely gender neutral, unisex. This one here, easily a male favorite. And actually, I'm about to do a aromatic fragrance lineup, and Absence Boreal is going to be part of that lineup. Now, in answer to your question, Jay, and also to your question, BEZ, I would recommend to you Santal Volcanic. And let me tell you quickly, whenever I'm wearing this particular fragrance, I am always getting compliments, and that is not an exaggeration. It creates, so the one particular, I was at a party, a lot of people, a lot of smells of food and everything else. I was close to the food table, speaking, and a young lady that was next to me, in mid-conversation as we were talking, she just sort of like came into my shoulder area and started to breathe in, and she's like, your perfume is just, I have to tell you, it smells amazing. Second time happened, again, being Latino, we tend to hug people and say hello, and I hugged, and it sounds like I'm hugging young ladies. There's nothing in this. It was just, you know, we're friendly. And anyway, another young lady was like, oh my gosh, you know, I love the smell of your perfume. So Santal Volcanic, a lot of compliments on it, projects really, really well. It's an awesome summer fragrance. This is my go-to during summer. It is definitely my go-to if I go to a party. It actually creates, it cuts through all the other fragrances that are in there. It does have cedarwood and sandalwood in the heart. I think musk is in the base, but it starts with this wonderful ginger and lime. It has a ylang-ylang also in the opening, so it's a slightly floral, just gorgeous. All right, but the one that I want to talk about and give it a little bit more love to is one called Iris Malikan, and this is the one that Julio, so have a look here. Julio is an awesome man. He actually partnered with me, he's from Baltimore, partnered with me on a fan pick. So I'm gonna put a link here so you can have a look at his fragrances that he loves or wants to share. Now, this one here is also it's in my collection. This is one of the most underrated fragrances that is currently out there. And I want to do, like I said, I want to do a lineup on the Maison Crevallis. The problem is this, it's such a fine balance between having conversations that are trending, and this is the hardest part, especially when you're building up your channel from the beginning. It's a balance between wanting to talk about fragrance that you really love, and the classic example is the Sunday release of Manos Girakinis. Very low traction on that, but I knew that was going to happen. The reality is that fragrance is still an absolute rock star. So, but I also knew that I was going to get very low traction. So I have to always find a balance between fragrances that I really want to talk about, like this particular house, and then things that people will, that are trending and people are actually looking for, just so I can pop up on those home pages. Otherwise, yeah, it's a fine balance. Now this one here, Iris Malikan, if you like the scent of iris. Now the iris can be a little bit polarizing as a fragrance because it's equal part, it has it's a green, it has a very strong green sort of element to it, but it also has a creamy heart. Sometimes it can be a bit chocolatey depending on how it's blended. In this case here, with this particular fragrance, it starts off very green, and it is a floral fragrance. But it doesn't fall in a soft floral or anything of that nature. It does go, so my understanding is that it does have incense in it. It also has, actually I'm gonna put it here because I can't remember all the notes that pop to me are ambery and vanilla. They're the ones that really come through, but with that iris being very green. So it's such an unusual combination of like a green, fresh, not necessarily forest, so it's not that aromatic component to it. It's kind of earthy. I think that's the best way to define it. There is like a slight chocolatey kind of vibe to it, but I think green is, so think of like if you grab a green plant and you broke that and you smell that greenness, that earthiness, that is what's happening here, but mixed in with this amber and vanilla, it gives it kind of a caramelly sort of vibe. When I first smelled this, it was, because I've got a large collection, I am looking for things that are different and unique, but also that are appealing, that, you know, smell beautiful. And this is one that definitely fell in that category. Unique, different, but just a gorgeous scent. Not everybody likes it. I have sprayed it around. It's one of those fragrances, and there are two types of fragrance in my opinion. One that you can actually bury your nose in and just inhale and just absorb, and others that are beautiful as a sillage. You just waft past people and they pick up. The moment they come in and start breathing in, they're like, oh my gosh, you blow their brain. This is one of those, so don't breathe it in, but as you waft past, because it's such a unique and such an unusual scent that you haven't quite experienced before, it actually creates a wonderful aura. From a distance, gorgeous. Up close, for some people, it's a bit sort of it's a bit scary. There it is. So, how did I go for time? Hopefully I'm doing good. If you have any questions for me, please put them in. I promise to do a review on the Maison Crevalles. I want to spend a bit more time on those guys. You know, honestly, go out and explore them. They've got a really beautiful, diverse range. And I won't go into it, but they've got so many fragrances that are completely unique and spectacular. One thing that I am going to be doing up very soon, so those who may have missed, we did an evening with George Zaharoff, and that was done at the Oligarch store alongside Kevin. That was a hit. We had great success, both from the people who participated and also from Oligarch's point of view. So I'm happy to announce, coming up very soon, we're doing another evening with. This time it'll be an evening with Oligarch, and the plan is to have 8 to 10 different fragrances that Kevin and I will be talking about. It will be a virtual event. People can join in on this conversation. We will send out samples to everybody so you can experience alongside us. And it also will have other benefits in there. We're working on the finer details of that right now. If that is something that you might be interested in, let me know what more we could include in that to make it spectacular. We had a great response previously. We want to make this next one fun, exciting. So I welcome your input. We've got some ideas for ourselves, but you know, if there's any other ideas that you have, I'd love to hear about it. Thank you, everyone. Mate Talk episode 2.